Welcome back. We're walking through some of the examples in Chapter 1, and you actually have in the lesson this Excel spreadsheet you can follow along with. Today we're going to talk about some break-even analysis. So break-even, again, what we're trying to do here is how to take different functions and apply them into the tool of Excel to help us do analysis. So we talked about the function for break-even of total cost equals fixed cost plus variable cost. And as we said in the last video, variable cost is our unit cost times our quantity produced. Now, what break-even is, it's a concept of, well, at what point are my profits zero or my total revenue and my total cost equal to each other? And after my break-even point, that's when I begin to make a profit. After I've made so many units, then I begin to make money. And it's helpful to a business to do this analysis because if we go back to our hamburger stand, you know, it would be nice to know, do I have to sell 100 hamburgers to make money each day, or do I have to sell 10 hamburgers each day? So in order to do that, again, in Excel I put, and again, people can be different in this way. I did quantity starting point and then different increments so that I have some flexibility and change it. And again, the things in gray are my input assumptions. So I put assumptions here, quantity produced and sold. So we're making a very simplistic assumption right now that whatever the quantity is produced is equal to whatever the quantity is which is sold, which if you think about a real business, that's probably not true because they're going to have extra inventory and etc. But for now, as we're learning in Excel and break even, we're going to make this simplistic assumption that the quantity produced and the quantity is sold is equal to each other. Here's our unit cost. So notice we made this that it would be flexible. So notice what I did here. I made this equal to this cell. And of course, I hit F4 to put those dollar signs around, which remember locks that cell. I don't want that cell floating. And then the next cell I just said, take this cell and multiply by whatever that is. And I locked that in my increments. Notice I didn't lock in the A12 because I wanted to fill that down, but I locked in the C12 because I wanted it fixed on that 250. And then I just did a fill down. I'll show you. You can just grab this corner and you just fill it down and it's all filled down for you. Your other option is you could go, if you have trouble grabbing that, which I sometimes do, you can come over here. You can say fill down. You highlight your area and you say hit fill down. Nice thing about Excel is there's usually 2 or 3 ways to do the same thing. Let's assume unit costs are $250. Fixed costs are $3,000, and unit price is our selling price. So what's going on here is we're making it for $250. We're selling it for $5. Here's our calculation of our variable cost. Now again, I'm not locking these because I want it to change as my units change. So here, not surprisingly, if we don't sell any quantity, our variable cost is 0. But just so you know, this cell is our unit cost times the number of units we sold. Our total cost is just equal to that cell. Our total revenue is just our unit price times the number of units sold. And our profit is just our revenue minus our cost. So not surprisingly, if we don't sell any units, we have a profit of negative $3,000. If you look down here, you'll notice that somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 units, we break even. Revenues equal to 0. Now, we can do a couple things. We can play around with this by changing, our increments. We could do some trial and error. Oh, look at that. We found 1,200 right there as our break even when profits equal to 0. Or another way we could do this is there is... if you know a little bit about economics, you'll know another function for you to know is our fixed costs divided by what's our unit price minus our unit cost, which is basically what's in accounting called the contribution per unit. But basically what this is saying is we're making $5 minus $2.50, or we're making $2.50 on each unit, we divide that into our fixed costs, and that'll tell what our break-even quantity is. So we need to make 1,200 units to break even. Sometimes you like to put that in terms of sales dollars, which is easy enough. You just take 1,200 units times our sales price of $5. So you could say our break-even units is 1,200, or our break-even revenue is 6,000. And in this Excel spreadsheet, we made a very easy chart for you. I'll reproduce it just to show you how easy it is to make. I want my x-axis to be the quantity that we sold. So I'll highlight that, and then I'll hit the control key. And then I want to see my total cost and my total revenue. Right? So I'll highlight those. And those will be my Y, and then I'll go down here and I'll say, or I'll go up here and I'll say insert a scatter plot, and let's put lines on it. And there you can see I've got a nice there's my total revenue, my total cost, my break even. And then all I did down here is I prettied it up a little bit, because if you go on here, you've got, notice this pops up, these chart types. You can do format. I put a nice little border around it. You can do layout, where you can add your chart title. You can put it above. I like to put it above, so I just put it above and typed in Breakeven Analysis. I can move my legend. This thing, I just moved it to the bottom. You can have axis titles if you want, horizontal, vertical, all sorts of things you can walk through to clean this guy up however you want. But you've got a nice little spreadsheet here where, notice, I can change my increments any way I want. And the beauty of Excel, if you set it up properly, is all of this automatically calculates for you. It updates your break-even quantity. Your graphs are changed around. So that's break-even analysis. Let's try, obviously, if our fixed cost increased, that's going to drive our break-even higher, because we have to, takes it up to 2,000 units, and you can see it updates the graph for you. So have fun playing around with, the best way to learn this is to play around with this stuff in Excel, and you've got the Excel spreadsheet. One other thing you can do with break even is you can make some interesting, the next thing, example 1.8, talks about decision models for outsourcing, or for what I call sometimes make-buy. Should I make it internally, or should I have another vendor make? So a couple of functions. To manufacture myself, it's my fixed costs plus my cost per unit times the quantity of units. If I outsource it or let somebody else produce it, my costs are just my supplier unit costs times the quantity of units. So basically, I don't have any fixed costs. The supplier is selling it to me at a certain supplier unit cost, and it's just a function of the quantity of units I buy. So I set this up pretty much the same way. Here are my units produced, different assumptions. My unit cost, my fixed cost, the supplier's unit cost. So in this case, it costs me $2.50 to make each one. I have fixed costs of $3,000, and the supplier would sell it to me for $4 a unit. So if you note, at very low volumes, not surprisingly, it doesn't save me money to manufacture it myself. It's better to outsource it or buy it from another vendor, because basically what's happening is, in low volumes, I'm not producing enough to offset the cost of my fixed costs. But notice as I come up here, again, I have a break-even point, and after that break-even point, now it becomes beneficial for me to produce it internally, because I've got enough volume to overcome the degree of fixed costs. This example 1.8 works very similar to 1.7. You've got the break even calculated for you, and it comes with a little chart that you can do the same way. I encourage you to set all this up and walk through all the equations yourself and try to duplicate this because it'll help you with all the homework. That's break even. Any questions, let me know.